And welcome back, everyone, to the week of Who Would Win. This comes to us from Alexander Asher, who asked the question, who will win in a fight? Heracles from the Fate series versus Kenpachi Zaraki from Bleach. This is one I've actually seen when you pair up, like, Kenpachi matches. Heracles, it's Hercules, but it's actually spelled Heracles in the show. Heracles is always one of those characters that gets brought up in it. And I'm going to tell you right now, this wouldn't really go, at least in my opinion, and I'll break down my opinion on that, the way I think the Fate Stay people kind of would like to think it goes. Let's break down, because I can do Kenpachi in my freaking sleep. I can do just about any Bleach character in my damn sleep. But let's talk about Heracles. Heracles is a noble phantasm. Now, forgive me, I'm not 100% I'm not a Fate person. I know the series to a degree, so I do know it. But, basically, in the Fate series, you have these people who are fighting it out for whatever reason. I can't remember the reason people are fighting in Fate. It's like a tournament or survival, whatever. And essentially, you're able to call on what is known as a noble phantasm. And the noble phantasms are, in essence, like people from history. And like very famous people. You have like Alexander the Great. I believe Saber Artura is Arthur Pendragon, basically. Saber Artura is actually King Arthur, just a female version of him. You could have Musashi Miyamoto, who I believe is a character in there. You have Napoleon, I think, could theoretically show up. Sun Tzu, or Shao Tzu, or whatever. Sun Tzu, like Art of War, so forth. And mythological figures as well, demigod-like figures. Which, by the way, people speculate Hercules is a real person, just not a demigod or anything like that. He wasn't like this. He didn't look like that. He probably looked closer to like a big hefty dude with a big belly, but still physically strong and all that. Kind of like how Thor is a bit more depicted in the Ragnarok games. But anyway, so Heracles is a noble phantasm and a servant of I'll try to do this. Ilyasviel von Eisenburn in the Fifth Holy Grail War of Fate Stay Night, and one of the servants of Ritsuka and Fujimaru of the Grand Order. Now, that said, he apparently is, so he is a noble phantasm. What exactly is a noble phantasm? Well, it's, like I said, but take the history stuff out, what exactly is it? It's something you call him to fight on your behalf. A being, a spirit, whatever it may be. He is, they are used for fighting with other noble phantasms. And theoretically, the holder or controller or master, if you will, of that noble phantasm. And because of that, they all have their own variety of abilities. He's classified, Heracles, as a berserker. To be specific, if I'm not mistaken, his classification is generally berserker. I think he's got another classification underneath there as well. I can't find... Oh, parameter? Is that it? Nope. Class skills? Nope. Personnel, noble phantasm. And a noble phantasm also is... See, this is where... this is where my lack of knowledge in the series kind of will bite me in the ass. A noble phantasm is also an ability these spirits tend to have. So, Heracles is depicted as a berserker, a warrior, not necessarily a brute either. He's actually quite capable of hand-to-hand combat, like a skilled fighter. Physically near unstoppable, but still able to take a lot of damage from more powerful foes. He can knock buildings aside. His sword is so heavy it literally crashed through 3 floors of a building. He can tank God knows how much damage. But more than anything else, he has the ability, thanks to his noble phantasm, called God's Hand, represents the immortality he received from after death after he completed his 12 labors. He can be killed, but he comes back and he can be killed up to 12 times, because he perishes after the 12th one. You kill him, he'll come back. 11 more times. So yeah, so he's kind of unstoppable. It takes everything you had to put him down to begin with, at least in terms of like, you know, blades, arm, all that. And then you have a guy who just comes back afterwards. He's even been able to hold on past that death to a certain degree to continue going. His willpower is such that he can even temporarily sustain himself after going through his stored lives, and even the energy sustaining him, pushing past the powers trying to eliminate him, the laws of magic that construct him, and the regulations of the world that attempt to destroy inconsistencies, and is even his own body that is crumbling away like sand. Though his mind is dead, the willpower that should no longer exist supports an invincible body until it finally fades away. That is ridiculous. It completely his power is completely nullified after he resurrects. Regardless of how powerful the noble phantasm that defeated Hercules is, it will be completely nullified after he resurrects. However, Atara Pendragon Alter is able to overcome his resistance by increasing the power of her attacks. So it's really just like, aha, you beat me this way. Haha, you can't beat me with that sword again. Let me swing harder. Boom! Oh, crap! You beat me with that. That's kind of what it was. Granted, she used Mana Burst, which was a skill that really bumped her up. As a heroic spirit, Heracles' most trusted noble phantasm is 9 lives. However, cannot be used in the Berserker class under normal circumstances due to lack of motor skills. It's still ingrained into his technique and history. And he normally would carry his bow, the Hydra, but he doesn't really carry. He carries a massive sword that is used for destruction. So, one of the things I hear a lot with the Fate with this matchup, and I heard it years ago when I heard someone talk about this matchup, is that the noble phantasms can technically only be beaten by other noble phantasms. But again, context and world is key. What is a I keep saying noble phantasm, but technically that's not what he is. These spirits, these fighters, these warriors, these servants can only be beaten by others of their kind. But that's, again, context in their world. What are they? They are spirits. So, by that logic, Bleach, which consistently is talking about spiritual energies, spirit world, spiritual beings, a Shinigami should be able to appropriately interact and kill any one of these servants should they be powerful enough. Which brings us to Zaraki. Zaraki, obviously Squad 11 captain, he is Kenpachi Zaraki, and arguably the strongest captain currently in the Gotei 13. Kenpachi means the strongest Shinigami of your era. And yeah, I mean, when you really break it down, maybe the head captain, Shunsui, is stronger technically because of just more experience and overall abilities, but Zaraki's got to be in Ryatsu, physical power, endurance, all that. So, yeah, Kenpachi is a monster, like a legit monster out of hell. He is a master of the sword. Even before he got even any formal training, he is a master swordsman. And now he's a straight-up master. Preferring to fight one-handed, but can easily go two-handed if he needs to. His strength is double when he swings twice with your hand. He does have basic Shimpo skills, which is their version of super speed. Nothing fancy, but it's still immensely effective. His brute force, Ryatsu strength, and endurance and durability are kind of not comparable to just about anyone else. He has enough energy to literally give off the impression of like a nuke going off. He literally has the durability to tank, mind you, massive explosions, other blades. Even when they hit him, he can just keep going. He survived the vacuum of outer space when Grammy threw it at him. He has been cut up. He's been cut apart, lost his arm twice in the same damn day, and just said, whatever. Ripped his own arm off casually. The man has been nearly eviscerated and just kept going, laughing while taking damage. He can literally just grab the Sero, which is a giant spiritual beam of light, a giant laser cannon, if you will. One-handed it and just went no-selled that. Then you go to his physical strength, which might be one of his most defining features apart from his Ryatsu, where he's literally able to, even in the early days of the series, he swung with his eye patch off, mind you, at his full power. He swung and casually flicked his wrist and cut a building in half And that was the force of it. That was literally just him flicking his wrist and the force of his blade. The Air Force cut the building in half. So that was early day Kenpachi for his just sheer strength. He was able to casually go toe-to-toe with Yami Largo, who was a massive giant. Then when you get into the 1,000-year Blood War arc, he can casually lift Nozarashi, his Zanpakuto, with no issue. He cut with Nozarashi. Now this feat is a little contested. There's two ways it's interpreted when he got out of the galaxy room. Because some believe that he literally cut through the fabric of space to get out of the galaxy room. Others believe that he stopped. He was able to get through there before it closed up. I'm kind of inclined to think the former, actually. And the reason for that actually is when you actually see Kenpachi get out of there, you see him open it up more and break it. That means he was literally breaking a spatial construct that was formed. He was just like, what? So I'm actually inclined to think he cut through that. But that's contestable. I think the biggest feat of strength he had, though, was against Gerard Valkyrie, the Stormrider M, Gerard Valkyrie, who is actually the heart of the Soul King, and the giant fight they had, the Miracle. And he was bigger than Yami ever was. Stepped on Kenpachi, who then just went, nope, and just threw him on the ground. Then proceeded to go toe-to-toe for a while. Then in Bankai, completely decimated his ass until his Bankai overwhelmed his body. And then the last bit, which I actually think is the most impressive bit, is he flipped Gerard again after he'd gotten even stronger and I think bigger. He flipped him by basically inserting his fingers about that far into his toe or his foot and went, and like, that is legit. That's ridiculous strength. That's just nuts strength. Beyond this, though, Kenpachi is also actually a fairly intelligent combatant when it comes to battle IQ. He likes to just hack and slash, but he is capable of actually figuring things out very easily if you give him a chance. For instance, how he figured out how Tozen's Bankai worked and how to counter it. When he was capable of fighting Gremmy. When he fought against Nuatora, he figured out a couple things with him. Like, I've never had anyone whose eyes and throat can't be cut. And then, obviously, we got to talk about Shikai and Bankai real quick. Nozarashi is a giant war axe, pretty much. It is designed to cut and burst things and just break things apart. Cut through, like I said. I believe it cut through the galaxy room, but, again, contestable. I still think Kenpachi was still strong enough to tear that. He just needed the right hold on it. But also the fact he cut through a damn meteor that was going to wipe out the entire Soul Society. Or at least Serite. So, yeah. Nozarashi's pretty beast. And then his Bankai, which is unnamed right now. I'd like to think it's Yajiro Nozarashi. He gave Yajiro the name Yajiro. And that Nozarashi adopted that name for its Bankai. I would love to think that, because that actually would be really charming and sweet in a way. But his Bankai turns him essentially into a freaking Kishin. a war oni of unbelievable monstrous potential. You want to talk about true Berserker. He is a true Berserker in that form. Capable of literally stopping the giant man who was beating him down with his mouth. So, and I always talk about this feat because it's really important to understand what he did in that scenario. He grabbed it, stopped the momentum, and it just yonk, and his arm went out. And before Gerard was ever able to regrow his arm, and this tells you how quick Kenpachi was doing this, he cut through his shield again. He split his face out, and then he cut him in half from a distance. It cut so powerful and fast that he cut him in half from a distance. So Kenpachi, the only problem is right now, we don't know how much control he has over the Bankai, because that was his first time activating it. It overwhelmed his body, and he blew off his arm. The point I'm trying to get here is that Kenpachi is just a being on a different level of power than Heracles. Honestly, I'd imagine a lot of the high-end Bleach characters are just on a different power level than, like, say, the Fate Stay universe. Like you throw Yamamoto, I mean, I'm using Yamamoto as an extreme example. You throw Yamamoto in there, and no one, Gilgamesh, no one is beating Yamamoto in that world. And by the way, you can't say that if that something that works on other noble phantasms or servants can work on them, because it's not designed to work on them. It's designed to work on noble phantasm, the effects of a noble phantasm or a servant. Now, granted, that does go to my whole argument. It's like, well, they're spirits, so in theory it should work. But again, if it's something specifically tailored to that specific type of ability, that doesn't work. But the point is, Kenpachi, even without releasing his Shikai or Bankai, is, I think, just way too much for a character like this, who is very berserk. I mean, he's still powerful. Kenpachi might get a good fight, particularly because the guy keeps resurrecting. But the problem is, we've seen Kenpachi take down guys far more powerful than what Hercules has let on. He took down a guy who could literally imagine anything. He took down a guy, excuse me, he took down a guy who could literally, actually, he took down 3 captain class opponents on his own. He took down a guy who had skin far harder than any steel around. So, and with multiple arms and multiple regenerations. So, and Kenpachi has literally split a meteor in half casually. That's not a feat most Fate Stay characters, from what I understand, have. And now again, Kenpachi is Kenpachi. He's one of the strongest characters in the series. So that might not be the fairest comparison, but still, yeah. I would go Kenpachi in this fight. I think this one kind of is a stomp. The only thing that would really be the saving grace for Hercules is the fact he'd be coming back a couple times, and Kenpachi would just have to jack up the power a bit. Every time he'd just have to get a little stronger, which is he's more than capable of doing. So yeah, I'd go Kenpachi. Am I a Bleach fan? Absolutely. Do I not know a lot, or maybe not enough about Fate? Very possible. But based on the information I have available, I would go Kenpachi. This is just my opinion, however. Let me know in the comments below if you feel different, and if you do, that's cool. We're all friends here. So anyway, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.